Hello, my name is Peter Atkinson. I'm the pastor at Riverside Albert Baptist Church, and I'd like to share this thought with you. I was reading Acts, and I came to the portion of Acts where Stephen, that wonderful man who was made a deacon, and then he ended up being arrested, and he preached this wonderful sermon, and then they were going to stone him. Let me read that passage. And he said, "Behold, I see the heavens opening up, and the Son of Man standing at the right hand of God. And they cried out with a loud voice, and covered their ears, and rushed at him in one impulse. When they had driven him out of the city, they began to stone him. And the witnesses laid aside their robes at the feet of a young man named Saul." Let me skip down to verse 1 of chapter 8. "Saul was in hearty agreement with putting him to death. And on that day a great persecution began against the church in Jerusalem. And they were all scattered throughout the regions of Judea and Samaria except the apostles. Some devout men buried Stephen and made loud lamentations over him. But Saul began ravaging the church, entering house after house and dragging out men and women. He put them in prison." Now I thought as I read this that there are things in your life that are pivotal moments, times where you have had something happen to you that changes the trajectory of your life, and you become a different person. And I thought to myself, I don't know if this is true of Saul. And I wondered if he had stayed home that day, he hadn't come in to be part of that trial, he'd stayed home and looked after his garden, then he just heard about it the next day. But you see, he was there, he watched them stone Stephen, and it says he was in hearty agreement with that. And then he ravaged the church. And when I read that, I thought, would he have done that if he hadn't been there? Was that the tipping point in his life, the defining moment that changed him from a nice religious teacher to a person who wanted to destroy this new religion of Jesus? And when I think that, I wonder to myself, are we as Christians sometimes hard on people who have had experiences that we haven't? And we say, well, why would that person become an alcoholic? Well, maybe there was a tipping point for them, or maybe why did they do these things? And one thing you have to do is say, God, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I want to thank you every day that you have kept me from those experiences, those happenings that would have changed me into a person that I would not be happy with. You remember Saul said when he became Paul and he was a Christian, he said, I was the worst sinner in the whole world. He remembered all these things. When you ravage a whole community, you don't forget it. And we need to recognize how good God is to us, to save us from those experiences. There's an expression, but there by the grace of God go I. How many times did God save us from, we were home picking potatoes from the potato garden instead of doing something else with a bunch of our friends an experience. How many times did God save us from that? We need to have a little compassion with people who didn't get saved from those experiences, and it changed their life.